Hello and welcome to Radio Free Nintendo. It is December 11th, 2025. I am James Jones. I'm joined today by Mr. Greg Leahy.
Ahoy, hoy, everyone.
Mr. Guillaume Bayette.
Hello.
And Mr. John Lindemann.
Good evening, James.
This is episode 956, and as we record this, the Game Awards are trudging on to their, I'm going to say, 19th straight hour. I don't know. It's fucking miserable. There's been some stuff announced. We'll talk about some of it a little bit later, I guess. There was a trailer they showed at one point, Larian's new game, where it appeared that the audience was being torn apart by demonic energy. And they actually showed like AR video of members of the audience being sucked up into a giant pit void of the screen as the Game Awards was being shredded by a demonic force unseeable to human eyes. And I cheered. And then after the trailer played, they revealed it was just an effect and everyone in the audience was fine. And I feel like you can't tease me with the thought of the Game Awards being shredded by a demonic entity and then be like, actually, no, everything's fine. And we've got 5 more hours this horse shit. Evanescence is up next. Because, like, for a minute there, I was like, something good is happening at the Game Awards. The destruction of the Game Awards.
Finally, justice.
But unfortunately, finally, peace. But alas, we remain the only outlet brave enough to concoct an entire narrative in which the Game Awards are destroyed. Which, honestly, like, more appealing by the Game Awards so far. I timed some of them just for the joy of this. There was a stretch of time where we went 25 minutes between awards in a show called The Game Awards. You could have revealed every award in the time between the two awards. It is, I try to conceptualize, which tragic figure of Greek mythology is the most accurate representation of experiencing the Game Awards. And I think what I settle on is it's rolling a ball uphill while the bird eats your liver. I think you need both of those things for it to really get across the absolute agony that is experiencing the Game Awards. I cannot fathom how they have taken an event that is, at least if you believe in nominative determinism, designed to celebrate an industry that is largely structured on the leisure and enjoyment, and have turned it into a soulless device made to burn off sin as I await my entrance into paradise. What an absolutely miserable production from absolutely miserable people. The pre-show, the host of the pre-show is the same person. Among the things that happened was making a joke about the fact she broke NDAs, which is, and now they don't tell her anything before she hosts the show, which led to her pronouncing the name of a winner wrong, which you could have given, she had the nominees, she could have learned to pronounce the names. It was the horse game. It's the horse game. Not that horse game. The Japanese horse game that's been out for 3 years, but for some reason won Best Mobile Game today. Of this year. Cause fuck it, who cares? The only reason I can think she has that job is that she makes Keeley look good. Because she's so bad. She's so bad. She's so fucking terrible. What an awful show. What an awful show. And we subject ourselves to it because new things get announced, like Orbitals, which looks cool as hell. It's a co-op, 80s anime-inspired space exploration game. Looks cool as fucking hell. Or, we found out today that, South of Midnight, which Guillaume talked about, is coming to Switch and PlayStation.
I saw that.
Johnny also, yep. I know you posted about it.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, like it was not, I don't know. It was a very pretty game. I talked about it because I felt like there was something worth talking about it. But I never expected it to actually come to Nintendo. I thought, like, well, that's it. Like, it didn't really make a splash on Xbox or PC. I guess this, they had their shot, and it didn't really go anywhere. So, I'm happy for those guys.
Pragmata, which Capcom had really only shown once on the PlayStation, was announced as coming to Switch 2, and there's going to be an amiibo for Diana, the robot girl that follows you around. Because Capcom can't help themselves. Unlike last time Capcom talked about amiibos, we actually got to see what the amiibo would look like, not just a shot of the character. It's good on them for actually knowing what this one looks like. This is by far the most challenging amiibo to own. And I'm sitting here going like, do I want to own this because owning it seems ill-conceived? And I'm 98% sure the answer is yes. 90, 98, maybe 99% sure the answer is yes. That if this was even like 20% less ominous to have in your house, I would not want it. Which, you know, is probably not healthy. Probably says a lot about me. It says more about me than it does anything else. This being less than 30 hours removed from me giving Nintendo a significant amount of money so that in the future they might send me a piece of plastic shaped like a Virtual Boy, which would be a facile purchase if I did not already also own a Virtual Boy. At which point we are now passing into like self-parody. And that's fine. That's fine. Hey John, I got an email yesterday from Nintendo. It told me that my voucher was about to expire.
Yeah?
You know what's weird about that?
What?
If I went to the website to see my vouchers, it says I don't have any vouchers.
Well.
I don't. I spent all the vouchers I have. I was very confused by this email, and then very confused again when I went there and it said I don't have any.
Sounds like a bug to me.
It's awesome. I was trying to figure out how that even happens. I'm like, how the fuck do you do this? It's great. I love it. Love it. Nintendo's such a fun company to follow. What a joy. What an absolute joy. I gave Nintendo $43 this week. By the way, this is new business. To get expansion pack with the C and a K. I had no interest in expansion pack. Like when they added Genesis, there's very few Genesis games I actually have any affection for, so I was like, whatever, fuck that, I don't need that. When they added the N64, I'm like, man, I've played most of these games to death, except Win Back. I don't really need that. And it wasn't like they were rushing to slam N64 games onto the service either. They were taking their sweet ass time, and I'm like, yeah, whatever, man, I'm not giving you money for that. Most of the games that they showed having, content you get for free with the expansion pack, I didn't own. So it was like, well, that doesn't do me any good. So it was a really easy proposition for me to go, no, not interested. But, hey, we have a retroactive. It's next week. Like when this episode comes out on Sunday, you have, assuming it doesn't come out on Saturday. Let's assume it comes out on Sunday. You only have like 3 or 4 days to send us comments on the retroactive. You can send them to the email. You can put them in the Discord. There's a channel for it in the NWR Discord. John, what is our retroactive game?
Soul Calibur 2.
The soul still burns.
The soul still burns.
Yep. Fate Conspires is the other one that another former NWR staff member used to say to me all the time. Until at some point, I just begged them to stop. And they stared at me for a minute and said, Fate conspires me to continue saying this. And I just left the room. I walked out. I walked the fuck out. I'm done.
Yep, that's I
was like, no.
It's a correct response.
I didn't say anything. I turned around on my heel and walked out the room and closed the door behind me. I was just like, I cannot deal with this. Fuck off. Content-wise, you could probably get a pretty good feel for this game in, I don't know, 5-10 hours. But I know part of the reason I said that is I played it for hundreds of hours at some point. I'm most of the way through the Weapon Master mode, which is a weird single-player thing that I'm going to spend a lot of time talking about next week, I suspect. But yeah, you still got some time to go in there because it is on Nintendo Switch expansion pack, and you can go play it and send us your comments. It won't take you that long to get a feel for it and be able to send us some comments. I kind of want to play the intro music to Soul Edge, the first game in the series, instead of anything from this game's album because its music's so fucking good, but it's not on any Nintendo systems. Soul Edge died on the PlayStation. Soul Calibur 2 is the third game in the Soul Calibur series. Fuck off. So I spent some time with the expansion pack, just to the fellow individuals here who have Nintendo Switch Online but don't have the expansion pack. I'm speaking to you in this segment. So I sampled the opportunities available, I guess is the best way of putting it. Things I played. I played some Star Fox 64. Very odd observation on this. So I couldn't make the Landmaster hover with the Switch Pro controller. Like it always detected either left or right and didn't do the you press both and you float. And I'm wondering if that's something about how the button presses are registered on the Pro controller not being the same as how the N64 did them, and the emulator just goes, fuck it, can't fix that. And so I just face jammed my way through the Landmaster level. It was fine. I still mission accomplished.
One thing I wonder about that, it's been a while since I played. I messed around with Star Fox 64 on there when, early on. I think it was one of the first games on there, but that was well before they'd had the remappable buttons. That's a relatively new thing for that particular Switch Online app. And I was thinking, in some cases with the remappable buttons, the back shoulder ZL, ZR are not remappable, right? They're not in play so much sometimes because, I think they're kind of retaining them for initiating the rewind in certain cases.
Oh, okay.
But I'm trying to remember if that is the case for N64 or not, in terms of whether it would be better to try it with either set of shoulder buttons. Maybe the regular L&R would be better, or maybe the Z L&R would be better. I'm not sure. Maybe there was some, because the back ones tend to be a bit spongier, less clicky, don't they?
Yeah.
So, it depends exactly what device you've got at this point, especially with Switch 1, Switch 2. There's quite a variance of what you might be using, and third party stuff, obviously. But, there might be something that you could do that might make that a less, tricky, that isn't just buying the bloody N64 controller.
Yeah.
Expansion pack.
That was my only takeaway from Star Fox 64. I remember how to do the hard path all the way to Venom, but I fucked it up in the Armada. I didn't get enough points, and so I got stuck on the middle path, which is how I ended up in the Landmaster. But it's fine. I still made it to Venom. I played a lot of Soul Calibur 2. But Wario World came out literally yesterday, which would have been, when it happened, I was like, fuck, that could have been our retroactive game. I've never played Wario World before, despite owning it for a decade.
I also was shamed by the NSO. I got this game used maybe 2 years ago, never touched it.
This is a weird game. It's really odd. It's got very odd controls, to say the least, that are probably also impacted by the fact they've been converted from GameCube's weird ass button layout to the Switch's conventional button layout. But basically, it's a side-scrolling 3D brawler that's also got weird combos and physics stuff going on, and I'm really struggling to figure out the controls. And the game has in-level tutorials where it tries to explain them to. I'm only 2 levels in, where it tries to explain how Wario feels. Like I said, very physicsy. But it never actually tests that you understand those things. So, you get a description that is not ideal, and then you maybe replicate it, maybe you don't. But since the game doesn't actually make you do it to prove you've learned the lesson, it's very easy to just, when it's trying to teach you about how to charge at enemies, just punch that enemy a bunch of times and then keep walking. And then you get to the first boss, and it just chases you around the arena. It's like a weird glowing green man. This is a very odd game. I knew that, but it feels weird. And again, this is Treasure making a 3D brawler, so it's a little bit outside their wheelhouse. It doesn't feel very tight, although I suspect maybe it's tighter than I think it is. But the platforming that's also in here is kind of kludgy. Wario is a little bit slippery, so when there's a platforming section very early in the first level where you have to jump between, I want to say they're disappearing platforms, but they're really small. And so like the first one, when you jump to it, you end up right near the edge of it because you almost overshoot it. The second one, you almost certainly overshoot it if you don't readjust the first time because you have very little control over his jump. Like you can't do like yumps where you only go a little bit. That I can see. There's some weird stuff around. You have to go into these underground areas to collect gems, and those gems unlock the boss fights, but also getting all the gems is one of the check marks you can get on each stage. And each one of them has their own little puzzle room. Most of the time it's just break thing and get gem. There's one in the first level that requires you jump on a ball that's floating in the air and then like use it to hop around a spike and then land back on the ball. But I can't figure out what angle to put the camera on to make that work. So it's really hard to see it and figure out what to do there. It's a weird.
It's striking. Well, just playing a little bit of it again myself. I played it back in the day, but it struck me as another one of those games that perhaps I've no idea if this is truly the case. But not something we knew at the time. But since their GameCube days, we had that sort of revelation about the notion that at one point, like Luigi's Mansion might have been developed with the possibility of stereoscopic display in mind.
Yes.
There's lots of this that kind of feel similar.
It does.
Those bits that where you go, you go through the floor, like there's a sort of a trap door, and you go down there, and it's like a little kind of platform challenge or puzzle thing like this, vaguely analogous to bits in Super Mario 3D Land, which were explicitly to quote unquote show off the stereoscopic display.
That was where I was going to go with it.
This is like a little trick where, it's almost like an optical illusion, but with the depth, you could see it. And the other aspect of it that kind of makes me wonder about it is there's a number of places where it seems like they're at pains to let you know where things line up, right? Because it's like you say, it's kind of like a belt scroller, a brawler that, like a final fight, where you've got that bit of room that you can move up and down the sort of play field. But, obviously with all this platforming and 3D and stuff, they seem to be more concerned that you won't be able to line things up. So they have all these little bits where there's a pair of green footprints. There's like, basically, if you stand there and you want to jump on the thing, you'll hit it, right? You are in line with that thing.
I thought those were like an indicator I had to do something there. Until I realized, it's just telling me you're lined up.
Yeah, it's peculiar, right? It seems like overkill, and you just wonder whether at some point that was another thing that made me speculate in my head. Like, did they at one point imagine this maybe being in stereoscopic 3D, and then when it wasn't, they're like, "Oh God, we better make sure that people can line up these jumps," because we were relying on the idea that it was going to have this 3D display. That now, it may not be anything like that. We've heard. Nintendo used to express things about, like, when Galaxy came out and stuff, maybe more Galaxy 2, by then, like, the idea of, people struggle more with 3D platformers, you gotta do more to help them with, like, the shadows and the this, that, and the other, so it might just be that kind of thing. That's at play, but it did really kind of, in playing it for the first time since hearing that story about Luigi's Mansion, it did make me think, oh God, was this another one?
Yeah, like the green footprints are really funny because it's in the very first level, and it's to line you up with like a tree trunk that you can climb on, and then use that to sort of to close that gap. But I stood on those green footprints and tried every button because I thought it was like a do something here to make something happen indicator. Not just like, no, this lines you up with the tree. The funny thing is, where they teach you, they're using that to teach you that you can use trees to clear a gap. But a lot of the stage is 2-leveled. And so you can just go to the upper level and just walk along that and just avoid that pit altogether, which is what I did. Not realizing that tree was something you could jump to. I was like, well, the green footprints don't do anything. I'll just go back up here. And then later there's like a double tree pit, and I had no idea what to do. I'm like, what the fuck do I do here? The fuck do I do? And then I realized, like, oh, that's something I can climb on. Okay, cool, thanks. It's a weird. I mean, this game is weird consistently. Like I said, I'm 2 or 3 levels in now, and I just kind of go like, did you guys play games of this era? Because it's got that weird feeling of, and we talk about this a lot in the N64, PlayStation era, and even to some extent the GameCube era, where it is, I have a game genre, I'm trying to figure out how to make it in the modern world. And by define modern, I mean 20 years ago now. An era where 2D games really aren't a thing anymore. I'm trying to adapt this very 2D genre into modern game development. What does it look like? What does that end up being? And this has the feel of one of those, but it's kind of late for that level of like, I don't know what the fuck to do here. You try me.
It's not that late for Treasure though, because they stayed, in pixel art for a long time, and then you think about
that's more of a Treasure problem than anyone else.
Some of the things that they've had, like Sin and Punishment doesn't grapple with those. But it's a polygonal game, but as an on-rail shooter, it doesn't have to grapple with those sorts of concerns, right? So,
and it was kind of a terrifying time too, because these games were coming out that were transitioning from 2D to 3D, and as a player, you had really no idea what you were going to get. Some of them were really good. Some of them absolutely fell flat on their face.
Yeah, and
the other thing I would say is this is kind of a hybrid. This is the amount of platforming in this and the kind of collectible elements, which you feel like it's kind of. Some of it maybe is a nod to trying to have some sort of continuity with Wario games as they had existed before this.
Oh, absolutely. Like the rush attack gives that away.
So you got 4. Where you just had Wario Land 4 not terribly long before this on the GBA, and we weren't to know that basically that was almost it for Wario Land, like Shake It or the Shake Dimension or whatever it's called in your territory. Is a few years later from Good Feel on Wii, but
Dimension.
This kind of feels like we got to have. It's not one of those, very much so, because it's far more of a beat 'em up. You've got the 3-dimensional aspect, but it's kind of like, well, it feels like we should have some degree of continuity, right? Which to some extent, I don't know, maybe kind of. I don't know whether it worked for it in some ways, because I think looking at TYP's review for it on the website just today, and some of the kind of criticisms are kind of because it doesn't live up to some of the more sophisticated elements of the Wario Land design, as it had existed to that point. And again, it's kind of tough to do that in 3D while you're kind of doing a brawler. It's like the platforming was probably never going to kind of live up to that, but yeah, it's a strange hybrid game, and it's a little bit disjointed because you've got these platform bits that kind of exist as a separate bit, as you go through like a little portal or a trapdoor or whatever, and then you go and play it separately and stuff. But I always appreciated the fact that the camera, at least, I know you spoke about that one particular sort of challenge you mentioned earlier, but I always appreciated the fact that the camera was just like, you can put it at discrete angles. Yes. And that's it. Like, it isn't going to mess up the way Mario Sunshine's camera would mess up, where it's like trying to adjust itself and it ties itself up in knots and just shits the bed. Like, it's like you kind of pick the angle you want, and, it's like a long kind of discrete increments. And, back then anyway, I was more happy with that, of just like, okay, I kind of know where I'm going to stand and I'm going to make it work, and eventually you kind of get through some of that. So, and of course, the other thing is, because they put the kind of some of these platform challenges in a discrete little pocket level, when you fall and fail, it's not a death. You just restart that bit again.
Right.
You know, if you want to, you know, it's not like you kind of, whereas with Mario Sunshine, it's kind of, well, you die however many times and then all your and you keep going in those places, like, but when you kind of run out of lives, then it's game over, and you'd have to come back to that particular through the plaza, then go to the actual level you want, then get to the bit of the level you want, and all that. Now they tended to be pretty generous with 1-ups at certain points in those like void bits of Super Mario Sunshine, you know. So it's if you get so far, you get a life, so you really shouldn't run out of them. But it was still possible. I think this way of doing it, where it's just its own sort of discrete thing, and you can't really die there, is probably, you know, a pretty good way to handle it, actually.
Yeah, I there have been moments where the camera being manipulatable like that was helpful. But yeah, that one particular one, considering how very early it is in the game, it wants you to do a relatively complex piece of platforming, but the camera does not, like, how that area is laid out, the camera is just like, no, there's no good choice here. The best
I think
one,
it's always a tricky thing. I've seen this even with stuff that's like 2-dimensional Smash Brothers and single player modes and things. I think it's always tricky balancing the feel of characters, like especially with jumping, for both brawling and satisfying platforming. That's not easy. You know, a lot of the time I feel like it's, you know, you really kind of the best feeling kind of locomotion in platformers tends to be ones that's their strict focus, right? It's just how does it feel to get around and be able to surmount obstacles with this character, rather than having to worry about, you know, how does it balance out when you're beating up a bunch of enemies. Yeah, it tends to kind of muddy the waters, I find.
Yeah, I when this came out, I was like, this could be a retroactive game in the future. I don't know that I want to put up with it. Like, Wario seems to have a lot of techniques, and if you go look at the trailer that Nintendo put out for this game, which is properly weird, it's a very, like, somebody spent a lot of time making a trailer for Wario World in the year of our Lord 2025. That is deeply aware of what Wario is. There's a lot more to his kinetic motion than I've been able to piece together from playing it. I just don't know that I want to go down that road, honestly. Like, it could still be a retroactive game. I just feel like it might just be kind of frustrating to play. It's also
it's not very long. That's the thing. I mean, you know, you could get it, so you could look at that as a plus and a minus, right? It'd be quick for people to be able to get through, and you can comment on the full kind of arc of the game from a design point of view. Does it, you know, really kind of pay off the things it's trying to do? Does it develop them? Whatever. But on the other hand, there's not that much substance to it. It's pretty repetitive. And this was one of the things at the time, and it's referenced in TOP's review on the site a fair bit, is that, like, it just lets you pay to continue, kind of like it's an arcade game, but with the money that is, you know, ubiquitous in the game, you know, all the coins that are just falling out everywhere. And it really never felt like it was balanced for that. And I believe there were concrete indications from back then that it's like that it was added late in development, of like the game was balanced around just like you die, it's game over, and you'd have to, you know, start back from like a checkpoint at the start of the level. But instead, at some point, it's like, no, well, you know, you give people an opportunity to continue, and then it was just like just putting another coin in an arcade machine, and you just start right there, and it kind of just neutered the game's difficulty. Of course, that was a lot more of an issue back then, when it's the idea of like, oh, this game's got to last you so long, because you would have paid, you know, $50 or whatever regional equivalent, you know, back then, and all that. And as a subscription service game, you know, concern yourself with that, you know, in the same way. So maybe the continues thing is like perfectly fine at this moment, you know, just like in another case, you know, because obviously GameCube games don't have rewind, but other, you know, platforms on the service do. It's almost like a crutch like that, except it was already there. That was a big sort of thing back then. It's just like, it didn't seem like it was balanced for that. So a lot of the time people just ripped right through it, you know, and didn't really have to think much about how to best play the game. You could just kind of bungle your way through.
Yeah. the other observation I took away from this game is it is shockingly ugly. It has the vibe of, and this is something that if you didn't live in this era, you're just gonna have to take my word on it, because these games didn't really, well, I was gonna say these games didn't really make it to the modern era, but they have for some fucked up reason. It has the look of, in the era of the GameCube and PS2 and Xbox, there were still companies trying to create the 2000s mascot platformer. Like, Sonic was the early 90s one. Crash Bandicoot is just Sonic, but made in the mid-90s. They're completely identical otherwise. Fan of one of the other franchises is going to be mad at me, but you're wrong. They're the same character. They're just 5 years later.
But the attitude's totally different, man.
Yeah, because it's just Sonic in fucking Jinko's jeans.
I'm not arguing with you.
I'm not wrong.
You're not wrong.
Because I'm right.
No, you're not wrong.
It's the same fucking. This is Sega does what Nintendo don't, followed by fucking Crash Bandicoot out there at a Pizza Hut ad with the megaphone outside Nintendo's headquarters in Seattle. Like, it's the same fucking character. It's just 5 to 7 years later. People were still trying to do the early 2000s version of that. What does that look like? Well, it's been sanitized. We've got the F out, as WWE would say at that point. We're out of the ruthless aggression era. And so it's back to being cartoony and kiddish. It's much more inspired by CG animation, because that was starting to come along much more prevalently at that point. Like, kids animated movies were starting to shift towards CG. Not fully. We saw a lot of hand animated ones. I say hand animated in air quotes because they were using digital ink, but you get the point. So you have things like Ty the Tasmanian Tiger, which sounds like a Super Nintendo platformer, but it's not. It's a GameCube one. What were some of the other ones? There were some other ones that came out around that time where it's like, what the fuck is that? There was a Tack and the Power of Juju. There's a bunch of these like also ran mascot 3D platformers. And it kinda has the graphics of one of those, and I say that with all none due respect. The texture work looks bad. The character models look really low poly. There's a lot of them, and it's very smooth. That's the thing. Like, everything is very low polygon. Everything is super low detail texture-wise, if there's textured at all. Some of it's just flat. There's a lot of just flat color. There's very little shading. So everything looks quite rough. But it is very smooth. As Greg pointed out before we started recording, it is 60 frames per second. Which is not that common for 3D platformers of that era, to say the least. John, how many TAC games do you think there were?
How many, what?
TAC. T-A-K.
Oh,
TAC and the Power.
TAC and the Power of Juju, right?
TAC and the Power of Juju is the TAC game, yes. How many sequels do you think TAC got?
Probably 2.
I'm gonna see.
I'm thinking there has to be a TAC trilogy out there in the offing.
So I'm at 2 sequels. Is the Guardians of Gross a full TAC game? Alright, this is weird. Alright, I wasn't prepared for this pivot. Alright,
is this TAC game canon is not something I expected to have to answer.
Yeah. So it's THQ all the way down. But
that says it all.
TAC and the Power of Juju.
Yep. The classic. Yep, the OG.
Yeah. From Avalanche Software, of all people. Published by THQ. That was 2003. It got a sequel in 2005, I think. Let me see. Boop. TAC and the Staff of Dreams. It was the same company. There's a GBA version of both of these games. And then at some point, maybe the next sequel, maybe it's the second sequel, The Great Juju Challenge, which already sounds unpleasant. 2 years later, So these things are coming out every other year. Nickelodeon is suddenly the producer. Because apparently fucking Tak got picked up for an animated series somewhere in here. And then Guardians of Gross comes out, which is the fourth game. But it's based on the TV series, not on the games, based on the TV series. So arguably it's a reboot. What the fuck? Why? I was like, Tak's a fucking failure of a franchise. No!
I never had any idea there was a Takiverse.
Tak has 4 distinct games, including a reboot and an animated series, and GBA versions of all of those games.
Wow.
What the fuck?
That's impressive.
Tak made appearances in Nicktoon-themed games as well because of the series. What?
Guess this is what happens when you gain the power of the juju.
The power of the juju.
I mean, it's pretty obvious that if there was a behind the music with Tak, this would be kind of... There's like the first part of his career, he was probably down on his luck, you know? And then all of a sudden, Nickelodeon comes along, and all of a sudden, you know, fate conspires to put him back on top.
We like this weirdly racially insensitive depiction of South American people. Let's do this.
Right.
Yeah, let's call Andy Dick and get him on camera to talk about Tak and the power of juju.
Yeah.
All right, so you joke. Guess who voices Tak in the animated series? It's not Andy Dick. It's Hal Sparks.
Oh, okay.
Which is only like one step removed from Andy Dick.
Yeah.
What a fucking... I mean, then it's everybody else. John DiMaggio, Patrick Warburton, Kerry Walgren. All the names you know from all these fucking animated series.
Wow.
I am... All right, here's the question. I'm gonna... How many episodes of the Tak animated series do you think Nickelodeon produced?
45.
No, lower.
Okay. 30?
Pretty close. 26.
Yeah, bad.
Half season. They produced a half season. They kept it in syndication for 7 years with half a season.
Man.
Jesus Christ.
What a bargain.
What a deal.
Yeah.
What a fucking deal.
What a fucking deal. I mean, and someone's sitting there getting royalties off of that. Like Hal Sparks is probably getting royalty off of that.
He's getting 42 cents a week.
I mean, Hal Sparks is one of those. He's one of those guys that they hire if you need a snarky non sequitur about some '80s song, right? Like that's the guy
Correct.
I'm thinking of.
Yes. Yeah, and he made appearances in the same kind of shows that Guillaume was referencing.
Yeah.
The funny thing is, all right, so they made 26 episodes. It took them 2 years to release them all, because they were releasing an episode about once a month. But the highlight for me is the 22 minutes. So you can watch all of Tak and the Power of Juju in roughly 7 hours. If you need something to do this holiday season. I'm just recommending. It's an idea. It's better than watching all the fucking Donkey Kong the animated series. Jesus Christ. So yeah, that's a big non sequitur. But this game made me think of Tak. It actually made me think of Tasmanian Tiger, which I think also had a TV series. What the fuck? Maybe I totally misjudged that era. Maybe that era was actually like a big deal. But when I made the comment about like these things won't fucking die, the Tasmanian Tiger got a remake.
You're probably not misjudging that era.
Do you know who published the Tasmanian?
I'll
give you a hint. Chrome made it, so it is Australians making this game.
Okay.
Chrome's a pretty big hint because they basically worked with one company a lot.
What was it? Ubisoft?
No, this is an EA game.
Oh, ugh.
EA made a cartoon mascot platformer in what year was this? 2002.
These are all games that probably sounded great in a boardroom with a bunch of 45-year-old guys sitting around saying, "Look,
us now.
Look, I'm playing golf at 3:00, so let's just figure out a mascot platformer and get the hell out of here."
He's a Tasmanian tiger. He's got a boomerang. It's set in Australia.
It's just great. Yeah, cool. Okay, great.
Greenlit.
Just
greenlit.
Just greenlight it. Give it to this studio. Doesn't have anything to do right now, right? Just give it to them.
He's looking for Thunder Eggs. Great, perfect, greenlit.
Yep.
There. Budget's $12 million. Go. Oh my god! Each level is similar to Crash Bandicoot. Great.
Wow, what a surprise!
It's like because you basically named this. Jesus Christ!
Each level is similar to popular game at the time.
Yeah, Vex. That'd be the popular game of like 5 years previous. Vex is another one of those. Like this is just turned into James Name's 3D platformers that he thinks died, but maybe they actually had long, successful careers he doesn't know about. I'm pretty sure Vex only got one game.
What about iNinja? Are we gonna
iNinja? Yeah, that was one of them. I think that got one game.
Yeah, but voiced by Billy West.
God. There was a period of like, we're just going to put expensive voice actor, well, relatively. Vex was a claim. I remember that because I remember they sent out Christmas cards with Vex's ugly ass face on them before they had announced the game.
Yeah, it's like these mascots are sort of like NBA players that are drafted in the first round, and then they flame out after a few years in the league, and they go over and play in Europe and like win the championship or something.
But they're not like people who were drafted in like the top in the lottery because you remember them for flaming out.
No, absolutely. Like these are like lower part of the first round,
drafted like 18th.
Yeah,
to the San Antonio Spurs.
Yep.
And I'm posting in the chat a game that I actually bought. I paid for and I played, and
loved?
part of.
Given the fact he said played part of, I'm gonna guess the answer is no.
Well, maybe something happened, and those were the best days of his life. But fate.
Scalar, Jesus! I forgot about
asshole.
Scalar. I forgot about Scalar.
It's very easy to
look at that fucking attitude.
Oh yeah.
Wow.
Oh yeah.
This was like a budget game. I think it came out at like 30 Canadian. I'm not sure what the price was in the US.
Son of a bitch.
It was a late GameCube game. I think maybe made in Montreal. I'm not sure.
I mean, he looks like he's not taking shit from anyone. You know?
Oh no. Mm-hmm. But you know what's nice about this game, John?
What?
It has a 69% rating on GameFAQs. Nice.
Nice. On GameFAQs. Yeah.
Had a lot of an emphasis, as you can see on the cover. It had an emphasis on grinding.
If you search for Scalar, the first result's the Wikipedia page. You have to search for Scalar GameCube. The first, because otherwise you get like things for removing scales.
Yeah.
The first thing you get is the Wikipedia article. The second one you get is a Reddit post from R Gaming. Did anyone play Scalar? My all-time favorite game.
So
that's what I was gonna.
Was it only out for GameCube?
Go ahead.
No, it was on PS2 as well, and Xbox.
Yeah. Oh wow.
Yeah. But that's what I was gonna say about all these games. Like, we can make fun of Tide the Tasmanian Tiger, but and it was probably someone's first, 3D platformer adventure game, and some people probably have very fond memories just from playing it at the right age.
These games were not for anyone.
That's much more positive than I want to be right now, Gil.
Like, the thing is, I was relatively close to the age that the people were being targeted for these games. I was a little older, but still, these games weren't...
Yeah, but a little older can be a lot older, as soon as you hit a certain age,
you're telling me Scalar's for the kids? Look at that attitude.
Yeah, I think that would... I don't know who Scalar is for. Apparently it was for 23-year-olds or so who were looking for something to play on the GameCube.
Clearly.
The first post in that R Gaming thread is, this looks like Discount Spyro doing a Tony Hawk impression.
Yeah.
Probably not wrong.
Fair.
Scalar would eat Spyro for breakfast, but now I can't unsee this similarity. Fuck you. Oh my god. The whole point I was trying to make was it looks like the graphics of a bad one of these, but I'm looking at graphics of Scalar, and Scalar looks way better than Wario World. No, it wasn't 60 frames per second, sure. And now Dr. Muto, that's another one, yeah. Google wants to tell me about Outlaw Golf. Fuck you, I know all about Outlaw Golf, starring the voice talent of one Stephen Colbert. I know all about that game. You can get right out of here. Golf for teens, John. It's golf for teens. From the great developers Hypnotic, published by Simon & Schuster Interactive and TDK Media Interactive.
It's dark. That is dark. Simon & Schuster.
Published by Microsoft in Japan.
Wow, how appropriate. Simon & Schuster, I wonder how deep their software catalog is.
And I was wrong. Steve Carell did not Colbert, it was Carell that did the voice track for Outlaw Golf. Can you fucking imagine? I'm gonna get Steve Carell to sign my copy of Outlaw Golf for the Xbox.
Yeah, and like, what was that? Steve Carell, pre-Office Steve Carell?
Oh yeah, this is 2002.
Yeah, like
this was him while he was still on the Daily Show.
Oh,
he was on the Daily Show.
Okay,
which is why I mixed them up. So he and Colbert were both on at the same time. Yeah, so they were correspondents.
So he really did just want a paycheck.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
There was a sequel, and I know this one. Dave Attell is the voiceover for the sequel.
Oh man, that is dated as hell. Holy crap.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
Like that is 2005 right there, Dave Attell. Right?
Let's see if you were right. How close you are. Outlaw Golf 2 is you're probably pretty close. Why is does Outlaw Golf 2 not have? Does Outlaw Golf 2 not have an article? It doesn't. It's just bolted onto the Outlaw Golf article. Jesus Christ.
Wow.
2004. October. So you're really close.
Yeah. Yeah.
You're really close.
Yeah, there was that period of time where Dave Attell was doing his TV show when he would have been even remotely relevant.
There was oh my god. A standalone expansion, Outlaw Golf: 9 Holes of Xmas, was released December 23rd, 2002, exclusively to Blockbuster. A second standalone expansion, Outlaw Golf: 9 More Holes of Xmas, was released November 15th, 2003, also exclusively to Blockbuster. And then Outlaw Golf 2 was released 2004. What the fuck? Wait, there are other games of the Outlaw series, including Outlaw Volleyball and Outlaw Tennis. What the fuck is Outlaw Tennis? Holy shit!
I could just imagine, like with a golf game, that, I mean, I'm just thinking unnecessary voiceover.
Oh my god. Oh my god. Oh my god. Alright, so I fucked up and confused Steve Carell with Stephen Colbert as the voiceover for Outlaw Golf because I haven't seen that game in 20 years. I just clicked on Outlaw Tennis, which I'd never fucking heard of. Has the worst image I've ever seen for a cover. Outlaw Tennis is a video game based on the sport of tennis, published for the Xbox and PlayStation 2. The last game of the Outlaw series to be released in 2005. Actor and political satirist Stephen Colbert provided the voice of the game's announcer. Fuck yeah, they got him!
There you go. Yep.
I didn't even know! It's amazing. Oh my god. This met with an average reception. Oh, Hypnotics. What's Hypnotics up to? They're dead, right? They've got to be dead.
They must be. Or else they're doing mobile games or something.
My god. Hypnotics is EA Tiburon.
Huh. Interesting. So then they were doing sports games too, right?
They were doing Outlaw Golf, yeah.
Okay. But didn't they do Madden at some point? Didn't they do some version of Madden?
They did. EA bought them. They turned them into, like, working on Tiger Woods and Madden, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. They also did Deer Avenger. Jesus Christ.
Man.
They did Who Wants to Beat Up a Millionaire? And Panty Raider From Here to Immaturity. Jesus Christ. Why did EA buy these people?
Well, so they could shut them down 3 years later, probably.
Oh, they still exist. They're EA Tiburon.
Wow.
Yeah.
Surprising. Like, how have they made it through and EA's just shut down so many other much better studios?
Because they work on Madden.
Yeah, that's exactly it, right? I guess in that case, it's who's the incumbent.
Yeah. So they were acquired and merged into EA Tiburon. Okay. So EA Tiburon existed before them. They became part of the whole.
Yeah.
Pun not intended for the 9 holes of Xmas. Anyway, I'm going to stop talking because this has gone on a digression that just takes me deeper and darker into like the early 2000s. Where I talked about how like, all the mascot platformers have to be like super PG now because we're in the PG era. And then you have people rebelling against that with shit like Outlaw Golf, where at least 2 members of the cast are strippers playing golf. Because fuck it. This is the era of BMX Triple X after all. This is BMX Golf Triple X. I don't know. I have to fuck that one up. Golf Triple X. There we go. But not really because there's no scores tie-in. All right. I assume the remainder of y'all are going to at least want to talk about Metroid. So I'm just going to let y'all talk about Metroid. Who wants to kick us off talking about Metroid?
I mean, I could kick us off.
Do it.
Let's see. So where am I? I am. I've actually done quite a bit. I've uncovered the entire map. And I've gone through. I think I have 3 of the transfer keys at this point. So I've beaten Ice Belt, Volt Forge, and I'm doing Flame Pool right now, or whatever it is. So I've gotten a lot of power ups and everything, and so I'm pretty far in the game. And I think the thing that strikes me the most is I feel the whole Miles McKenzie thing is completely overblown. Because when you go into these other areas, it's funny, and it goes to show you that how a demo can give you a very, very, very skewed opinion of the entirety of a game, depending on.
Absolutely.
Like we talked about, like previously with Monster Hunter games, where you play the demo and it actually, you're like, I don't understand any of this. This game is horrible. But that's just because it never properly really shows you any of the systems or anything like that. Whereas the actual full game, not all of them, but especially later entries in this series.
It's not a game you can really do a 15-minute demo and walk away from knowing what you're doing.
Yeah. And so this is similar in the sense that the amount of chirpiness that Miles McKenzie gives you at the very beginning of the game drops off completely. So, because what happens is you go into these other areas and you get the sort of message like, oh, your signal is breaking up, and then Miles can't talk to you anymore. And you don't talk to anybody. And so then you get the more traditional, or what people claim is the more Metroid type experience, where you are walking around, isolated, not talking to anybody, just going around solving puzzles and stuff like that. And so you'll go hours without pretty much hearing another NPC, unless there's an NPC. There's some NPCs in these areas, and you have to help them, accomplish certain things. But even then, they don't really talk to you very much. They generally tell you where to go. And then when you complete something, they'll kind of radio into you and say, hey, Samus, great job. Now you should probably head over here. And usually when you complete a level, when you beat the boss, they say, hey, it's been an honor, helping out the great bounty hunter, Samus Aran. And that's it. So the whole NPCs talking too much, not feeling like Metroid, that's just completely false. It doesn't apply.
I was talking to somebody last week who is a friend of mine who is a massive Metroid fan.
Mm-hmm.
I don't hold it against him too much. And he was reading the stuff on this, and he goes, I'm kind of confused. And I asked him why, and he said that in Metroid Fusion, Samus never shuts the fuck up. And I'm like, what? He talks all the time. And I'm like, really? Yeah. Like, I don't remember that, but I'll take your word for it. So like it's not like talking doesn't happen in this series.
Yeah, but it's also, but I feel like it's also kind of weird though, because in this one, Samus doesn't say anything ever.
Right.
So it's very strange.
Yeah, people talk at her, and they kind of sometimes reply as if, like, "What's that, lassie? You're saying that?"
Exactly, right? Like
go explore the well.
Yeah, it takes like silent protagonists to a whole new level. It's to the point where it's just weird because, hey, Samus, so you're saying that we have to go there? Samus just sits there with no response. Oh, right, yeah, okay, like, it's just weird. Samus should just talk like a normal person in this game.
Mm-hmm.
It's not a big deal, but it is just kind of strange how everybody else talks like normal humans do, and she just never says anything. Sometimes gives a nod. Most of the time, she just stands there and stares, and maybe gives some sort of movement. But yeah, but anyways, yeah. So, but I will say they actually some of the things that they've done. It kind of makes me laugh because they actually have put some quality of life changes into this game, but people just choose to completely ignore them. Miles actually does help you and point you in the right direction a lot of the time. And I think what that does compared to past Metroid games is that it cuts down stuff where I would usually go to an FAQ file. Just because I don't want to sit there and you know, like, just figure things out necessarily and waste my time. So what Miles will do is he'll radio into you and say, hey, you know, you just got this. Maybe you should try going over here. And that will save you time because that especially happened to me with in the ice belt, where, you know, I beat the boss, and on the way out, there was obviously something that I could pick up there, but I didn't think I could necessarily do it at that time, so I left and I went back to like base camp, you know, where Miles is, and on the way back, well, actually, I get to base camp and I kind of go somewhere else, and I didn't find what I thought I would find, and he says, "Hey, maybe you should try going back to the ice belt and doing this in that room with this thing." And so I was like, oh man, I did miss something. Now, normally in a Metroid game, when that happens, you would just wander around not knowing what the heck to do for an indeterminate amount of time until you finally just looked at an FAQ file and broke down. And
right.
But this time I was like, oh man, I was right. My instincts were right. There was something there I had to do. And so I went back and, you know, and I said, okay, well, I have to use that thing up there, but I don't know how to get to it. And then I kind of just sat there for a while and kind of looked at the room because I knew there was something I had to do in the room, and I figured it out. And then I got the item I needed to get, and I kept moving, which actually, that actually impressed me because that was a useful hint system from the game that didn't cost me anything. It didn't compromise my Metroid experience or anything like that. It was just a sensible way to kind of point me in the right direction and keep me going in the game. So there's stuff like that I think people are overlooking.
And I'll say, like, so I haven't played a whole lot. Unfortunately, I haven't had time. We had the visit over, but what are they called again? The grievers, I don't know, like the creatures that are all over the place. They kind of stress me out. They're kind of you know, like they just crawl around, and like they're pretty tough to they can take quite a few bullets, and they just I don't know, they're effective monsters. And I was kind of feeling a little bit kind of lonely and, you know, a little bit, like when I went back the first time to Miles so that he could upgrade, you know, give me the fire shot or whatever. I was like, Miles, I'm so glad you're here. I'm so glad that you're talking to me. Like, it's kind of stressful getting over here, but like this place is an oasis. Thank you for, you know, at least I have this space where I'm not going to be attacked by these fucking crawling, monsters. So I don't know. I think I might actually really like Miles.
Yeah, I got no beef with Miles. He's very useful, and he's always giving you gifts. You know, you never.
Yeah.
There's never really
the gift of friendship.
Yeah, the gift of friendship, the gift of companionship in Guillaume's case, and also he's the one that always upgrades all your gear. So, yeah. But yeah, overall, I mean, I'm having fun with it. I mean, it's a Metroid Prime game, and if you like other Metroid Prime games, you'll like this. So, you know, I can't say that enough. I don't really know what more people wanted from it, but
above all, I think that people just have put the series on a pedestal.
Yeah, I agree.
Whether it's like Super Metroid or the first Prime, like that's their ideal of what Metroid should be, and as soon as you deviate from that, I think that you risk alienating those people. Personally, I feel like you have to embrace the stupidity of the Metroid franchise. You know, like this is, I think that perhaps there's a contingent of people who feel like, oh, Metroid, that's like Nintendo's serious sci-fi franchise.
Yeah.
But like that's a historical take, you know, like that's if you look at the games that we've gotten and like the way that even, you know, by the time that Metroid Prime came out, like there were games that were trying to be serious and to be, you know, kind of like make sense and everything. But Metroid Prime just kept going with like floating power-ups that you get from killing all the critters on like this new planet that you found. And so, yeah, there's always been like the silliness to the franchise. And here it's almost put to the foreground by giving you, like, explaining, like, oh, these powers that Samus has, well, they're new powers. They're just like the old powers, except this time they're acquired through psychic powers. Mm-hmm. And so you get, like, the, you know, psychic visor or whatever. You get the psychic boots, which is just, that's so funny. Psychic boots.
Yeah.
How can boots be psychic? But you know what? Like, how else do you explain a double jump? You know, you can explain it through technology, I guess. Like, oh, is there like little rockets in these boots? I don't know. I don't remember what the scan for the double jump boots said. But these psychic boots, well, that makes perfect sense to me. Like,
yeah.
Well, how else do you hoist yourself up by your own bootstraps? You know?
Yeah. It sounds like you
psychic powers.
You also aren't taking seriously the fact that she's the chosen one to literally every planet she goes to. Every single ancient race or culture thinks that she's the chosen one. So
yeah, but I mean, like they have to somehow explain why, like, all the equipment on that planet of aliens that people never knew about, like, is just shaped. Just, you know, in ball forms and tunnels,
somehow
and
has tubes all over the place, just the size of a morph ball.
Just keep saying it.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, these are not Chuzo. Like, they're a new alien race. They're completely different. These ones look...
Chuzos.
That's great.
You
I
mentioned
think that's how
that,
they pronounce it, though,
in
some game recently.
Even if they do, it's wrong, because that sounds dumb. You made the joke about Samus as the chosen one wherever she goes. Speaking of games coming to Switch 2, they showed an update on Resident Evil, whatever this one is supposed to be called. I can't remember.
Requiem.
And, that up to now we've only seen the main character that they've shown so far. They revealed that it's a 2 main character game. The other one is, of course, Leon S. Kennedy, who, as I noted in our Discord at the time, just let that man fucking retire. He's seen so much goddamn shit at this point.
Yeah.
He is absolutely the Samus of that universe.
Like, that guy must get out of bed and just be like, oh my god. Like, he is like the walking Ben Affleck meme, you know?
It's like every day. It's like, one time they sent me to Spain and I fought people who were infected with giant bugs.
Yep.
Then I fought a bunch of zombies again in Africa. And then they sent me, it's like, just retire, man.
Yeah.
Just like break all your phones, go hide on an island.
I didn't think he showed up in 5.
Yeah, I don't think it's in 5. He's in 5. You're thinking of Chris Redfield.
Oh, you're right, yeah.
Who was busy in Africa smuggling melons in his biceps.
Oh, God. Yeah, he shows up in, does he show up in one of the more recent ones? I think he cameos in one of them. It's like, just let that guy retire. Or if you don't let him retire, he should just go find a beach, come up with an alias, and just break all his digital devices. Yeah. Just be like, my name is Juan. I've lived here my whole life. Sir, you don't speak Spanish. Don't care.
No, doesn't matter. Now I will say, before we go down a complete rabbit hole,
again, yes.
I will say, like, so my kind of take on the hub world, the overworld map, it's a little pointless. It feels pretty empty. It really only serves the purpose of, you know, providing a couple of power-ups if you cover the whole map, and you'll find some shrines with various power-ups and stuff like that. But it doesn't really bother me. Like, it doesn't, I'm very neutral on it. I mean, I know I think the sentiment online is generally negative towards it, I think. But to me, it's just kind of there. It's nothing really bad. I don't really have much problems with it. I wish that it was a little bit quicker to go from place to place. That seems to take a little while, maybe a little bit too long for me. Like it forces you, like when you're going to one of the particular areas, it forces you to go through the hub world. I wish that there was some way to just like warp. And they do have the cannons, but it's not really.
Yeah, I mean, that's just for getting kind of from your home base to the exit gate of the home base. Yeah. It's not a massive shortcut. I mean, it's nice to have it, but it's not a huge shortcut. I mean, I guess I've seen the credits now, over 90% of the items, so I don't think it should be that long before I get 100%. But it's with the kind of this is therefore a little bit of a spoiler, mechanically speaking, design speaking. There is no fast travel. Mm-hmm. That's kind of Metroid Prime 1 had no fast travel. Metroid Prime 2 had it as an end game kind of reward almost. Yes. It's like basically you got the final suit, the light suit, and it allowed you to warp around, which definitely made the kind of end game key hunt if you didn't have some of those and you needed to clean up, or you just wanted to clean up your general collectible items because you wanted 100%. It did make them easier, especially because traversal in Metroid Prime 2 was the most convoluted in the series because it was, like Dark World stuff.
Yeah.
Which, somehow we were talking about, oh, you know what, Metroid Prime's always been a bit like Zelda, and we didn't mention that.
Yeah.
Last week. Yes. So, Metroid Prime 3, on the other hand, right, it had the whole gunship aspect, right? So it's like, okay, you get areas in a world where you kind of open up like a dock for the gunship, and then that becomes essentially a fast travel point, and you can travel between planets, because they were separate planets and all that. So Metroid Prime 3 had a much more like baked in fast travel element. With 2, it was just kind of we want you to see the whole kind of world, the whole kind of game almost, and then we'll give it to you for just kind of like mop up stuff. Whereas with 3, it's kind of woven in. So it's a bit strange to kind of go back and not have it, but then equally it's not the most kind of crisscrossing of sort of journeys that this particular game takes you on, right? There are times where you'll need to go back somewhere to get like one thing, and then you can get back on with the next dungeon, essentially, in the Zelda kind of parlance. Getting those, transporter keys or whatever John already mentioned. But, it's not a huge part of it. It does feel, it is pretty, very Zelda-like, as with this Zelda-like, old school Zelda-like overworld, which are pretty similar to John, I think, in terms of, I would say, do I prefer it over, or is it like a net positive relative to like, the almost nothing that you had in Prime 3, where you just warped by gunship, is it, narratively speaking anyway, around the planets and all that. I would say just a weekly positive maybe, because I do like the bike. I like the way it handles. Yeah. I like messing around with it. I like mapping out the world, to filling in all the little, kind of hex sectors, and you can see if there's it kind of alerts you once you've mapped it, like, oh, there's a ice barrier here, so you should come and it kind of makes cleaning up some of those items.
I just wish the camera would follow the bike when you turned it. That drives me crazy.
Yeah, I've been babysitting the camera a bit, but to the handling and all, and there's the odd bit, like, you can, like, boost off a ramp and, like, go through a little, like, jump and get a missile expansion, or, there's some hidden in the sand, or this, that, and the other. Like, there's just about enough that I think it justifies its inclusion, but it's not, like, a huge positive. But we've been there, for those of you think about, your Hyrule Fields, your Termina Field from Majora's, but I mean, it's probably, you could say maybe it's most similar to Termina Field in the sense that you could rip around that as the Goron at high speed. Because the horse was always kind of slow. I've not had the pleasure of the Master Cycle in Zelda Breath of the Wild to this day.
It is truly the cycle for Masters.
Obviously, that's a little bit different, because it's in this truly vast, Breath of the Wild world, and it's all other kind of design, really. But
now that I have expansion pack, I can see if it destroys the Switch 2 version as well.
Yes, no, absolutely. Yeah, but both, you've got both of those now. The Switch 2 editions of Tears of the Kingdom, and I haven't done a lot with that, but I just found it mildly unnerving watching it run that smoothly. It felt wrong. But I'm sure if I stuck with it, I'd get used to it. But it's like, no. I know what this is meant to look like. I don't trust this. But, so the overworld, I think, like I said, is a sort of, just about say kind of it earns its place, but not by a big margin.
Yeah.
Because as John already said, like there's not that much stuff going on. Yes, it's a desert, so thematically appropriate, but still, it is what it is. I kind of wish the desert looked more alien. I feel like, maybe this is just my Xenoblade brain speaking, but like when I think of stuff like Silverlum in Xenoblade X, like I want it more bizarre.
Yes.
It's pretty much a desert with a slightly strange skyline, and a tower in the middle with a force field around it.
Some creepy music.
And the sort of vaguely, like, the bits of 2001, like, where, like, you get those kind of, like, choir kind of trembling along while the monolith is, like, looming over the primitive apes. Like, it's that kind of thing. It does kind of seem to me, entirely my speculation, that perhaps, that could have been the music for, like, when you're either actually on foot in the desert, which isn't going to be much, or when you're kind of just coasting around slowly. And then when you get up to speed, the music would dynamically bring up the more rousing kind of music that like you have when you first get the bike in the Bike Factory, essentially, which I really rather like the Bike Factory.
Yeah, the Bike Factory is really
thought
cool.
That was like, this is Metroid Prime for me. I'm operating a bunch of weirdo machines and it's all got its own sort of logic, and you've got all the scans trying to contextualize, or this machine does this thing and this is that, and you got to like fool the machine into taking you where you want to go because you're a ball and that's almost like a wheel.
Yeah. I thought it was a very cool way to introduce a power up. Like the whole kind of like this entire elongated, like, oh, cool. So I have to build this bike, but they don't just give it to me. Most games would just give it to you. Like, you actually have to sit there and build it and turn on the power and get the whole factory running so the factory can make a bike for you. Very cool.
It just feels embedded in the world at that point, right? Just like, there's still silly elements to it and all that kind of, but for me it felt like at once totally Metroid Prime, totally in line with the things all the various factories and things that you've been pissing around in before, and operating the machinery, getting machinery working again, turning it to your advantage, but also like new because you haven't had this kind of vehicle before and all that kind of stuff. I really quite like that. But I think, my main sort of, I enjoyed it very much to the end credits. I'm a very, very big fan of the old games, in case anybody doesn't know. So to me, the fact that it felt in many ways like it could have been a follow-up to 3 that came a matter of a few years later rather than several is, quite all right with me. It sits perfectly well with me. I'd say the sort of biggest drawbacks that I identified was that the latter dungeons, which, John probably hasn't quite got to yet, there's a bit too much of an action focus for my taste. It's, I do prefer that Zelda dungeon feel, especially because Zelda's got away from it. I'm really comfortable about playing something that's a lot like the older Zeldas, but equally, and not to say there isn't some padding in this, because there definitely is, but, it doesn't have the bloat of some of those latter 3D Zeldas, post Ocarina 3D Zelda, like Skyward Sword has some obscene bloat. And
oh my God, yeah.
Twilight Princess has quite a lot. So, it's kind of, you could argue about there's some things here you could trim. I wouldn't necessarily disagree with you, but the overall feeling of it is quite sort of short compared to like a big Zelda. But to have some of these dungeons like there in an experience that's a bit tighter is quite, I'm really easy for me to get behind that notion. It's just the latter ones rather than like the upfront ones like the Bite Factory. You kind of have this, more puzzle focus, more kind of, feeling of like I said, being a Zelda thing. Later on, it's more of an action gauntlet type of elements to it, not exclusively necessarily, but so at least, it gets more, the action kind of ramps up, which is natural to some extent when you're doing a climax. There are things in Metroid Prime before, almost everything in this game. If you've got a particular memory of the 3 games, you can kind of make an analog, think of an analog, you can make a comparison of, this reminds me of this from, Metroid Prime 3, Metroid Prime 2, 1. It's borrowing from all of them. It's a bit of a mega mix, but it's probably in spirit most similar to 3 because the biomes are very disconnected, even if they're not absolutely disconnected the way they were before, being separate planets. Here with the desert, it's some kind of connective tissue, but it's relatively kind of loose. But everything is kind of rooted in things they've done before, and I guess when it's been this long, I'm quite at ease with that as well. It's like, yes, cool. I remember that. It's kind of cool, that they're riffing on that again. But I mean, maybe some people find that a bit more kind of roll the eyes and like, oh, they're doing this again or something. I don't know. But for me, when it's been this long, I'm happy to recognize, where they're drawing inspiration and try. But you could say it's kind of being a little safe, you know what I mean? Like try to keep you in close to the path that's already been kind of laid out before in some cases. But I think that action emphasis is just like, look, the controls and everything, the lock-on free aim stuff, and the different inputs you've got now with the gyro aiming or the mouse function, like it's as good as it's ever been in a Metroid Prime game. Like, because you go back to the action elements in the first one, I think a lot weaker because it's much more, it was rooted in that Zelda lock-on thing. And so, I think it limited how much they could do with the different bosses and stuff. I'd say here, the bosses leverage the fact that it can reasonably expect you to track enemies faster without solely relying on the lock-on and aiming at the different weak spots and all that.
And right from the start too. That's the thing. It was like when you fight that first boss, I was like, oh wow, it actually it wants me to use this and that like right out of the gate. So it makes you as you earn these new capabilities for your suit, you got to use them. Like It's not like one of those things where that stuff is backloaded at the end of the game and, if you have, 3 or 4 things in your toolkit, you won't use those until later on, really, because you can get by on most of the early bosses. No, you have to use things as soon as they're added to your toolkit, you will have to use them.
I thought difficulty-wise, because what it does is it just like, it does the thing where it's like, okay, easy and normal, hard is only something you can play as an unlockable after beating it once, right? So, which I think is what they've done before, going all the way back, to stuff like, Prime 3 and whatnot when it originally came out. So, not a surprise in that sense, but you wonder is like, am I going to play it on normal and wish that it had let me play hard from the start? Yeah. Is it going to be tuned like really? I wouldn't say so. I mean, look, if you're better at this sort of thing than me, then maybe you would feel that way. But I thought it balanced that relatively well. Not that it was like super difficult or there were lots of deaths, especially because I was being relatively thorough about picking up items. I was probably a little bit ahead of that kind of power curve with health and missiles and so forth. But, the challenge was there enough that the design of the bosses and things shone through, right? That is like, no, I have to appreciate the, kind of the attack patterns and everything so that I can actually dodge around them and effectively, attack when I get the chance. And is the boss design paradigm mostly the same as it's always been? Yes, I would say so. You know, they can be quite protracted. I would say it doesn't get to the more severe excesses of some of my least favourite Metroid Prime bosses, where it really kind of feels like it drags, or there's really big intervals between when you can actually do damage. But I don't want to give the impression that it's like fundamentally different or anything. It's again, like pretty much everything in it, it's firmly rooted in precedent from the series, and just maybe feels a tinge snappier and a tinge more actiony and stuff. So the action that's there, I think, is, you know, pretty good by the series standard and all that, but it's not necessarily, you know, what I'm looking most for from this game, and therefore the fact that it kind of leans into that a bit more as it goes on is both, you know, understandable, but from my point of view, a little bit kind of, I don't want to say outright regrettable, but, you know, it's kind of like, I would have liked to see maybe, you know, the last dungeon is like the more, a more kind of, you know, tricky and more difficult on a puzzle element. And it's like a more, expansive and intricate and challenging kind of take on that bike factory type of scenario, rather than it's more like in the action direction. But, you know, and I guess you could, when you put yourself in that space of leaning on the action stuff, I think it does put it more in the conversation with things like, we referenced last week, like the new Doom games or whatever. Mm-hmm. And maybe, I mean, certainly Doom Eternal that I played, you know, many years ago now. Like, that's what it does, right? That's what it's about. It's about intense action, survival, moment to moment, you know, kind of like just killing things ceaselessly. You know, can't take a breath. You have to just be like a shark, killing stuff to get your health back. Like, it's really, really intense. And this, where it feels like it's a little bit trying to kind of go, not all the way there, but like closer to something like that, and it's not that good at that. Yeah, you know, to my mind,
it does a lot of, you know, you entered a room. Well, and kind of my point with that, it does a lot of, you know, locking you in a room, and you got to kill the enemies to open up the security gates or whatever. Now, the problem that I have with that is there's been maybe 2 or 3 times where I have died without finding anywhere to save. You know, sometimes just because I didn't have the map to the level.
They're not that close together.
No, they're not. And like, and I know I in the flare pool, I just had this happen. And what frustrates me with this, well, I came into a room. At some point, you come into a room, and there's, this is the one with, I think, Ezra Duke or whoever his name is, and you can go straight ahead, to the left, to the right. I chose to go to the left. If I would have gone to the right, I would have found that I could save my game. Instead, I went to the left, which takes you on this whole thing, right? So where you're scanning away and you're fighting monsters and you're doing this, I go into the boiler room, which, and if you go into the boiler room, one of the things you find out very quickly the first time you go in there is that when you set off the flames in the boiler room, they kick your ass if you get hit by them. And so it killed me, and what drives me crazy is that you lose all of your scans. And that is the one thing from the earlier games where when that first happened to me, when I died early on in the game, I said, "Oh my God, I can't believe they did not just automatically save your scans so you don't have to scan everything all over again when you die."
No, and that would absolutely make sense, because it's not, there's nothing challenging about that. It's just time. It's
busy work.
It's just friction. I understand, you know, to some extent, the kind of preserving roughly the cadence of like scanning thing. Again, I do wish it was snappier, especially when you scan in like enemies. I can kind of understand the idea of like, you don't want it to be instant because it's some sort of tension thing. Yeah. It's like you're in the middle of a boss fight, and you're at the start of a boss fight, I should say, more likely. And it's like, oh, you want to scan this thing, and it takes I think they tend to take relatively longer. Like, it's, you know, your psychic visor, as Guillaume has already met everything psychic. psychic now, and your psychic visor takes a little bit longer to digest, like a great big bloody monster. Although, like I said, so that I could kind of get as like a little tension thing, or just like something that suggests the significance of what's being scanned. But there's something faintly ridiculous and kind of amusing about the fact that we get these moments where like Samus now gestures to her head, a bit like old school Professor Xavier in the X-Men, you know. So she gestures to her head, and like the thing goes, you know, the progress thing cycles around, and it'll be for something like that's just a sign that tells you the name of the room you're in.
Yeah. Yeah.
You really need psychic powers and a scan thing to say, you know, that you're in, you know, the engine room or whatever.
Yeah.
The boiler room, as you already mentioned. It just, that tickles me. But yeah, the fact that there'd be no real sort of, penalty, you know, nothing that really penalises how well you are at coping with enemies or hazards, to just let you, for it to remember that you've done the scans. And just that would speed things up. It would have a feeling of what's Metroid built on, right? It's built on retraversal. It's built on that asymmetric element of that, of like, okay, well, you went through this the first time, you had to do this, that, the other carefully. And then you went through it the second time, you had some item or something else that made it a lot snappier. And just not scanning everything kind of achieves that.
Yeah.
So,
God.
you know, it just totally, I totally agree with you on that, John. But I mean, I guess the one thing it does have is something that Metroid games have had quite a bit, like even like Samus Returns and Dread, I think, is like it does have some checkpoints. So say, for instance, if you like wandered, or as you mentioned, where there's like a fork in a road and you could have saved, but you didn't because, you know, it just didn't kind of scream out to you that there was going to be a save point at the other direction. Then, you know, if you get to a boss and die, it gives you the opportunity to just restart at that boss rather than like all the stuff before. So there is at least that is, and again, that's something that's been in Metroid games a while, so it would have been, you know, rather disconcerting if it wasn't there, but they do have it.
But now, Greg, you've seen all the bosses in the game, right?
Yes.
So is there any, because I have not seen this as of yet, but probably one of the things that I dislike the most about Metroid Prime games is in the middle of a heated boss fight, you have to scan the second or third form of a boss to complete the scans, right? Have you seen that?
Right, yeah. I'm trying to think that. I think I could, there's one I can think of, but I will say this, it is something where it's very conspicuously another form.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because what I don't like is the subtle ones.
Yeah.
Where it's like, well, you know, like it hasn't really changed that much. But now actually it's a unique scan.
Yeah. Like that happened in Prime
then
Remastered again, with the boss that puts out the wasps, where like I think it puts out like 2 or 3 different types of wasps, and you have to scan every single one of them, or you don't get 100% scans. And it is insane.
Yeah,
so and it's later in the game too, so you can't just like go through it, and of course you can't pick chapters. So to get back to that boss, you have to play through probably 3/4 of the game again just to get a single scan.
This is the return of whatever that boss was you had to scan, but when looking through the window before the fight started.
Yeah. That's Prime 2. That one. Yeah, that was a classic.
Yeah, this is
I mean, at least I think with Prime Trilogy and Prime Remastered, they did the thing where the logbook carries over. So if you start another, you know, do like it's kind of like New Game Plus for scans. You know, like so you go through the game again and you have already scanned all that kind of, you know, all the enemies and, you know, the logbook entry stuff is like already there. And you would just fill in the blanks, right? But, interestingly, that is not true here. So you better make sure you actually can, if you're dead set on getting 100% scans, which I don't think there's any particular, I don't, maybe some extra bits in the art gallery or whatever, but they've never put a lot of big reward behind 100% scans that I can remember. It's always like 100% items is the thing that gives you, you know, oh, here's Psylocke in his starship at the end of Prime 3, or here's, you know, Metroid Prime turning into Dark Samus at the end of Prime 1, for instance. So, yeah, it's 100% items that is usually the thing, but if you want to do 100%, I've done it. I don't know why they'd get rid of the logbook carrying over. That seems really peculiar to me, but there it is. And I don't know if I've missed any unique scans. I'm at like 92% or something. So I'm wondering what the hell I missed at this point, but yeah, there it is. I mean, I'll be, if I've missed some stuff and it'd be a pain in the arse to go back and do it, I think I'll just be sanguine about leaving it.
Yeah, that's how I was with Prime Remastered. I just said, man, I maybe at some point I'll feel like going through this game again and, you know, having another run at it and getting like literally the last 2 scans, because the other scan, which I talked about when I talked about Metroid Prime Remastered originally, is a scan where it happens one time in a room that you enter, and if you leave that room, it's gone forever. So,
nice.
Yeah.
Sure. It's always been like a really like kind of it's a bit of a high wire act, those kinds of things. Yeah. So it's best not to kind of get too invested in it, probably.
Yeah.
Did any of y'all experiment with the control opportunities that the game presents?
I have not. As of yet.
I messed around with the mouse a bit, but because I played so much of it portably, there's not. But it seems good to me, but I just haven't put in the number of, especially with those higher stress action sequences, like to see if it functions better or as well. I mean, some of it's just what I'm used to as well. I played so much like Splatoon and stuff that the mix of sticks and gyro just appeals to me, and Prime Remastered itself, right, which doesn't demand of you in the same way because it's the first game that wasn't built around that kind of fine aiming or anything, but you still had the options, and I got used to using it like that, so I've stuck with that.
Fair enough. Guillaume, do you have any thoughts you wanted to share before we wrap this segment?
No, I've already said all I needed to say about my friend Miles.
Okay.
Yeah, I guess I'll finish on, like I said, I enjoyed the game very much. I'm pretty happy with it in most regards. Like I said, I would have liked a bit less of that action emphasis, kind of taking over at the end as a matter of a balancing. But I will say this about the Miles sort of element is that there's one thing I find peculiar about it. That I would have preferred it to be done differently, which is that you have the option to radio Miles, right? So there's a button that's like, get in contact with him, which is basically like, ask Navi what's going on, right? Again, another Zelda, analog there. But I do feel there's certain cases, John's already talked about it in terms of where it might sort of suggest where you could go back to get an item that's going to be not just a missile expansion or your energy tank, but something that's going to help you unlock the next dungeon or whatever, right?
Right.
But to me, sometimes, like I was already kind of thinking like, I think I know what to do next. I'm just going to go out in the overworld and maybe, map a bit more of that and stuff, and then before it even ventured very far out of the home base, he's down your net straight away. So, hey, have you thought about going here? Yeah. And it's like, I have actually. Yep. I still wonder whether it should be this fast. And I think to my mind, I think the best thing would have been you have this capacity to opt in by the radio button. So I would just leave it at that. Don't have him, butting in when you may not want to hear about it. You might want to keep it like, well, let's see if I'm right. I've got an idea of what I think's going on. I mean, John, you already kind of mentioned that, didn't you? You thought that you needed to go back there, but it was nice to have it confirmed in that case, right? So it's like, that's the case where it's like, you might specifically think, you know what? Let's just see if I'm right. I'll press the radio button, and then essentially he'll probably confirm that or contradict it. And then we go from there. On the other hand, you may be like, no, I just want to see for myself. I want to see if my instincts on this are correct without sort of taking a shortcut to confirm it or not. I think that would be fine.
Yeah,
the fact that he sort of jumps down your throat like so fast. It's like, I've barely, the wheels of the bike have barely touched the sand, and we're already talking about that. It's just, it didn't need to be that way.
But then on the other hand, you go into these other areas and you can't even raise him. You can't even get him on the radio because the radio's disabled.
No, sure.
So it's feast or famine.
No, that is a little peculiar, isn't it, as well?
He's
so
busy.
I feel like just a few tweaks that, probably make him, make it more broad, but you can reach him at any time if you want to.
Yeah.
Right. And then he's not just going to come in unprompted. I think that would have been, look, if he's irritated by the script or whatever, well, that's a different thing. These are two different questions. That doesn't really fuss me one way or the other. They're not that invested in the narrative to begin with. But, in terms of the game design and the kind of how much are we going to prompt you to go somewhere and all that, it just ends up feeling a bit too, like it lacks confidence, both in itself and the player. Mm-hmm. And I think that's not a great feeling to have, even if it's not that consequential for your actual, play experience directly. I think it would be better to kind of just have it be, you opt into it if you've done what you had to do with the plot to justify the presence of this thing that can, sort of point you in the right direction if you need it. And they have had some kind of hint things in the past that were a bit like that. So again, it wouldn't be like a huge break from that, but, just ease off that little bit. And I wouldn't have had, too much of a problem with it, but look, I don't want to give the wrong impression. Does it tank the experience or anything? Not for me. Not even close.
Cool. All right. Well, I think we should take a break here. When we come back, we'll do something else. So stay tuned. We are back, and a little bit of stuff came out from the Game Awards torture ceremony that we didn't cover. They announced a new Mega Man game, for the Mega Man 40th anniversary, called Mega Man Dual Overdrive. It looks a lot like Mega Man 11, to the point where it's baffling. This is a 2027 game.
Well, you did touch on it with the anniversary thing, though, right? Because I can quite vividly recall Mega Man 11 and its 30th anniversary.
Yes,
branding.
10 years later.
So, yeah, on the one hand, it does reinforce the notion that it's a little bit peculiar that it seems it's taken 10 years to have something look this similar. But equally, I guess it's just like it's only the big, decade anniversaries that give somebody the pull within Capcom or the confidence to say, actually, we could try this again.
Why announce it now? Why not just wait?
True. Yeah. I mean, I'm assuming it'll be early in 27. That would be, it's not something that's going to drag out to the end of the year or anything.
I hope so. If this is 2 years, this is effectively 2 years from now, you can fuck right off, Capcom. News-wise, that was kind of it for Switch stuff. Like, they showed some other stuff that's interesting to me, but a lot of it not announced for Switch 2. This, though, like I said, announced for original Switch, so maybe one of the last original Switch games. 2027, I mean, that's pretty far out. But hey, we're gonna do a listener mail question. But before I do that, here's your reminder. Retroactive next week. Get your things in before Thursday. This is Soul Calibur 2. I should probably mention that as well. Available on Nintendo Switch Online. You can actually, if you haven't even started yet, I mean, assuming it's not like Wednesday or later, you could probably still get some comments in because, like I said, you can get a feel for what this game is relatively quickly. Weapon Master Mode gives you a pretty good idea of like, giving you like the base gameplay components. It'll put you in a challenge that requires you to understand how to parry, or understand why you would do a side versus a vertical chop, or how kicks should be used, or how to make throws happen, bouncing opponents off the stage, things like that. You can get a pretty good idea of like what this game has to offer relatively quickly. So go ahead, give it a play, especially if you already have just an NSO expansion pack with the CK, because you already own it. Congratulations. Well, you already have access to it. You don't own anything. Welcome to the digital future. But you can send your comments and your emails to rfn@nintendoworldreport.com. That's rfn@nintendoworldreport.com. I can say this in my sleep. Or you could post your comments specifically, not for the show, not from listener mail. You could post your retroactive comments in the Discord, in the retroactive section of the Discord. You'll find it over in the general area. Do not post mailbag questions in the Discord. I do not take them there. Even if you ping me, I just ignore them. I have set that rule. That rule will not be I might tell you to email it, but I will not take it from the Discord. So, email. We're only going to do one this week because we went pretty long on new business, and I'll go ahead and read it. This is from Daniel, who writes, "G'day, lads. Happy holidays and all that jazz. Hope you are enjoying a nice, cool, frosty Northern Hemisphere festive period and not in the high 30s like it is in my sunburnt company." It's cold. It's been real cold. It was minus 10 Celsius here the other day.
I wonder where he is. Australia? I'm assuming he is.
Yeah.
He is. Sunburnt country, not company.
Yes. Yeah, it's brutal. It's brutally cold. So the scenario you've been visited by, so the scenario, I had to put the pause in the right place. So the scenario, you've been visited by a time travel from the future has come to warn you of a time coming soon where Nintendo has grown so powerful that they have total control over the world. They have also come under control of a total authoritarian leader, and the world is now in the bleakest of timelines. Is this the Waluigi gets his own game? That's a pretty bleak timeline. You have been given one directive: completely wipe out one Nintendo series from existence so that it never existed and all its effects on history ended and anything it inspired or led towards never happened. Your choices are the following. Mario. Parenthetical. You could argue DK is part of this if you wanted. The Legend of Zelda. Metroid. Parenthetical. A foundational game for Metroidvanias. Or Kirby. Another parenthetical. Helped establish Sakurai and Smash. What say you all? Which series do you get rid of? Ponder the pros and cons of each. Never have existing. Regards.
But also, I mean, if are we going to make a choice based on which is most likely to avert the nightmare future where Nintendo rules everything that we?
I don't know. This still might be an improvement over the one we have right now. I might not even be bothered by it.
I mean, I guess it's like if you was going to have anybody like as a contractor for Skynet, it probably would be Nintendo because it wouldn't be that good, would it? It wouldn't be as efficient at killing us all.
That's true. You're going to have to navigate the Skynet shop, and it's going to take 30 minutes to transition between pages.
Yeah. No, it'd be take too long to actually be able to, learns at a geometric rate or whatever Schwarzenegger said, nukes Russia and it would take too long because the shop's taking too long to load, and so they'd have time to pull the plug.
God. I kind of wish he hadn't given us choices, because he kind of let us down some paths on these. If we just came at it completely blind, just nothing to say.
I mean, you know what I'm going to say?
What are you going to say, John? I don't. That's what worries me.
Kirby? I mean, obviously.
Oh, that's just a personal choice, though. I don't think if Kirby never exists, I don't know that we make a manifest difference on what Nintendo becomes.
I would agree. I think you could just wipe Kirby from existence and nothing would change.
You just want to get rid of Kirby?
I just want to get rid of Kirby entirely.
Totalitarian dictatorship ruled by Nintendo.
I mean, if we're talking time travel,
Kirby racing game, fully awake and full of rage.
Yeah, I mean, it just erased Kirby entirely from the timeline, and nothing would change. I think you may still get Smash Brothers. Sakurai has to do something. Maybe you get Smash Brothers earlier. Think about that.
What if? The question would be, what emphasis or what impact has Kirby had on Nintendo writ large?
Nothing.
I don't think that's fair.
It's might not be fair, but it's true.
I think you're letting your blind hatred here, John. I think maybe you've gone a little.
They just recently, it seems like they're effectively sort of trying to take pointers from Kirby about how to ruthlessly merchandise their products.
Oh yeah, they bought the company and turned it into the Nintendo merchandising company.
So maybe this is more of a stepping stone to Nintendo Skynet than I imagined.
Yeah,
but
John,
also,
John,
like,
you may
Kirby Tilt and Tumble was like the first time that Nintendo played around with accelerometers, right? So do we even get the Wii without Kirby?
Yes. We definitely get, because they were already experimenting with those controllers at that point. We have those
Kirby
prototypes.
Tilt and Tumble was a long time ago. I don't think, were they?
Yeah. They're talking about some of those prototypes go back a long ways. Those motion control ones. Yeah, they were messing around with that stuff for a long time before they got to a product they liked. I think, I mean, DK should be its own answer here from Mario. Because DK begets Mario, not the other way around.
And there's a lot of different types of games just like Mario as well, right?
Yeah. Like, I say if you whack DK, you whack Mario. Because I mean, I say that, but like, would Miyamoto have just come up with a different character to make the game that they envisioned?
Well, I mean, I guess they wanted to do Popeye originally, right? And of course, after DK was a success, they did do Popeye.
Yes. It's I was gonna try to use these Rose by any other name, but try to make it in Italian, and it's like, no, I'm not gonna go there. I'm not gonna talk about how sweet Italian smells. We're gonna move on. The challenge with the Mario one, I think, is the iconography you were able to represent on the NES is very limited, especially the early NES games before they had figured out how to make that hardware do things it wasn't really built for. And so I think the color scheme of Mario is kind of crucial to its success in a weird way. And so I wonder if it'd be really hard to come up with another. I mean, presumably, if they had to come up with something wholesale, they probably don't get there, because without DK, I don't know that Miyamoto continues making games, because obviously he wasn't a game developer. He was an artist.
No, and Nintendo generally wasn't in a great spot, right? They'd kind of come in late on the whole Invader boom thing that was kind of run its course, and so they had all those cabinets that they had to do something else with, and that, the DK was that thing, and it was really successful, so it kind of pulled them out of the fire a bit, and then beyond just getting them out of a tricky spot, it becomes a springboard to so many other things from there. But if you take that away, does any of the rest of it even get going in terms of the video game part of the business at that stage?
I think that's probably like the Megaton move, because you hurt what was a major player in sort of the giving a major boost to arcades in North America. You knock out the release of the Famicom, because the Famicom doesn't launch without the success of DK. Like, I just don't think Nintendo gets there, because that's not where the company was. The company wasn't a video game company. The company was a toy company at that point.
Well, the thing is, I think what you would see is that you would see Popeye become the preeminent video game mascot.
Jesus fucking Christ. Jesus Christ.
Crawling out of the primordial ooze of the arcade comes Popeye.
Oh my God. I just think of A Week of Garfield, which is an NES game that you should go look at. It's fucking terrible. And be like, what if Popeye was in A Week of Garfield? And I'm like,
what if Popeye? I asked myself that many times.
What if A Week of Popeye?
No,
A Week of Garfield
right,
is
definitely
odd product.
Definitely,
yeah, it's like,
Donkey Kong it's a key to Nintendo.
it's the alpha point.
Existing.
Like from
So
there,
if your there, if your goal is to prevent Nintendo from becoming Skynet, then you take out you take out DK, you're pretty safe then, aren't you? I mean,
the question is like,
it's worth mentioning this part about Terminator is that, you know, even though they kill almost everybody on the planet, it's the machines that want to change things. They time travel because eventually they lose somehow, even though it's sort of weirdly simultaneously sort of cynical and optimistic from Cameron of like, yeah, we'll craft the tools of our own destruction, but the people who do survive will just be so tough and like unkillable that they'll eventually win. And it's the machines that would want to change how it went, not us.
Do they ever I can't remember. Do they ever actually say how John Connor defeats the machines?
I think, yeah, I think it's just meant to be against sheer indefatigability, the human spirit, the will to survive, you know, just, you know, we're just too bloody terrible to die. Eventually we beat them.
It feels like there should be at least some kind of like, I stopped the machines from self-replicating thing, not just, I killed them all. But
they talk about sort of about their central, you know, computer, you know, the mainframe, or, you know, it's some kind of central brain somewhere, and the grid, I think they call it, and you know, eventually they win the war and they get there and they blow it up or whatever.
If only. Like, there's so many companies whose grid I would like to just go blow up if we can make that happen.
Yeah, well, the irony is for a company called Skynet, the company beside behind the intelligence was Skynet. This is before the concept of cloud storage, so, you know, they couldn't really, the idea that it would be in a specific physical place that you could kill, essentially, you know, was still kind of the notion at work there.
There are companies that have launched things like Skynet as their product, and it's like, what the fuck is wrong with you? But then again, Palantir is a thing, so like tech companies have just brain rot out the ass.
I mean, look, you don't judge a thing by the people that use it. For, you know, just because Saruman and Sauron have used Palantir, it doesn't mean they're inherently
and also,
bad.
It's known to have a corruptive power even in the best of circumstances.
My favourite is in the books the fact that Denethor sets himself on fire while holding one. If you try and use that one, all you see is him just dying over and over again. And again, this is what you want your product to be associated with. Great.
Bearing in mind that also that's the thing that drove him to it too. So just add that to the fun. Piece of shit ass company. All right. So that's the, all right. I can't take any risk here. I need to definitively know I have killed the beast. I will absolutely maximize my blast radius and take out Nintendo at its very foundation. What if you're like, what's the choice here if you want to try to minimize the blast radius? You still want the NES to exist. You still want the video games in the West to sort of have their resurgence. You want to see the industry healthy and be, well, insofar as it is presently healthy. Because arguably, if you take out the NES, where does it go? Like, I don't think the Master System...
It's like, say for instance, if you said Super Mario, right? So basically, from Super Mario Brothers onwards, so you kind of let us have DK Jr., Mario Brothers... And that, as you mentioned, like in the Famicom in Japan, that launches and it's built around being able to do those arcade games relatively faithfully. And those were the games, right? And then stuff like Devil World, like latterly, and it's you by the time you get to Super Mario Brothers, it's actually been on the market quite a long time, and they're already preparing the disc system as a refresh for the whole, you know, kind of platform, and that's going to come with new types of experiences like Zelda and stuff. But Super Mario Brothers, it plays a huge role in, mate. So it's not at the beginning, it's not as seminal, but it plays a huge role in the global popularization of the NES/Famicom, and, you know, Nintendo becoming this huge player in the industry for years to come. So it's not all the way there, but that's probably too big, isn't it? You know what I mean? If you take out Super Mario Brothers, you may never get an NES that's huge in the US the way that it was. Hard to say for sure, but I think it really puts it in danger.
It's like if you want Nintendo to be basically as powerful as they are now, like, and that to be their ceiling, to say like they will not progress beyond this point. We won't have the dictatorial reign of Wario to contest with. We won't have to pretend like there's ever been a good Earthbound game on pain of death, because there hasn't. Like all these things, that we don't have to sweat them. They're not going to be a problem. Nintendo doesn't have the authority to put you in cyber jail for having negative, possibly nonsensical takes on the state of Metroid Prime 4. The fucking takes, man. They've gotten worse this week than they were last week. The fucking brain rot you people have. But like Nintendo as they are now, a corporate titan that exists on pretty much every continent in some form or another, and is further growing to ensure that is the case. How do we like, is there a franchise you could knock out that it's Mario Kart? It's fucking Mario Kart.
Yeah, let them keep Super Mario, but maybe not, like, for me, the two, it's really facile, right, thinking, but the two that really kind of suggest, you know, like, are they going beyond, like, where you're truly beyond where they've been before, in terms of the sales figures on Switch, are Mario Kart and Animal Crossing. Those are the two, which, you know, you could kind of, Super Mario and, you know, Odyssey and, you know, all the things through to, you know, right to the present moment, like maybe they can stay where they are. But that kind of stuff where it's, you know, you're however many, you know, 60 million, you know, type of like sales. Yeah.
Like you can fund a small army, which might be the problem.
Maybe that is the kind of stuff that is so big that it could be problematic. So yeah, if they don't come up with Mario Kart they don't make the Switch, because it's an easy fork in the road, that, right? Because when they were prototyping it didn't begin with Mario characters, Super Mario Kart. So yeah, maybe if they don't ever brand that as a Super Mario game, it doesn't, because that's the weird thing, right? Is on the one hand, branding it as a Super Mario thing gave it this launch pad, but it's outgrown that now. It's beyond, you know, the Mario suit, certainly in sales.
Mario Kart 8 is at 69.56 million units as of September 30th. So definitely past 70 at this point. 70 million units of deluxe. That's on top of 8.5 million on Wii U. Like, you could definitely fund a small army to take over, I'm gonna say, at least a Central European state that's not Germany. Like, I'm gonna preclude Germany. I think they've got more heft than that. And whether or not you consider Poland Central European factors into it a little bit, I guess, because you wouldn't be able to handle Poland with that either. But like, are you telling me that's not enough money to fund a PMC to take like Moldova? Absolutely it is. So they've got to start somewhere. And if you're telling me ground zero of Nintendo is going to be the occupation of Moldova, I mean, it'll be better than what's going on in Transnistria, I guess, but it's still not great. It's not good. Just to clarify, Nintendo occupying Moldova, even if it removes the file presence from Transnistria, is not a positive thing. I just want to make that clear. I'm not advocating for this. I'm just picked a country in Central Europe that I thought you might be able to cover PMC costs with basically 90 million sales of a game where Nintendo gets between $40 and $60 on each sale. It's a lot of money. That adds up to a tremendous amount of money. Hundreds of millions of dollars. And then from there, the famous... Well, all right. So that probably doesn't set them up for any kind of financial success going forward. What is presumably the Nintendo arc here is they get money, they use that money to buy some kind of influence that is the launching pad for further action. I'm not sure what makes sense for them in this context. Cause like, they've got a lot of money, sure, but they don't have, like, take over Japan kind of money unless they establish a political party, which was terribly out of sync with Japanese politics. That's the path. Their CEO becomes prime minister, and there you go. You modify the constitution to drop self-defense force from the military's name, and then you go. That's the ball rolling. We did it. We found the path.
It's not one of the options, but I mean, I don't think anything like that. I mean, it's arguable that it's possible at all, but let's just set that to one side. And it wouldn't be possible if we eliminated Pokemon from the.
That's true.
That's the war chest. That's a really important one, because for all the things that we could say, DK starts this whole thing. Super Mario's another key moment. Where Zelda's a key moment, and perhaps Super Mario Kart's another one. But Pokemon is really, really crucial because it got them through some of the lean periods. For as much as, Super Mario was huge in the 80s and then the 90s, and then it's huge now, but it wasn't just some glide path that was smooth all the way along. You needed those to maintain. Pokemon is so big in revitalizing the Game Boy when it had been on the market for a long, long time, and it wasn't really they weren't really sure what to do. They already were developing, potential successor platforms at that time and all. But, Pokemon just comes along, gives it this huge shot in the arm and assures their dominance, to a fair degree in the portable space for years, decades to come, arguably. It helps them see off Sony, to a fair degree, along with, the way they kind of, disrupted things with the DS. In the aughts and so forth. So Pokemon's absolutely massive, sort of domino here that isn't brought up. But that's obviously, if we're looking at this from the business point of view, more than like the game design point of view, and like what personally we like of the things true. That game designers the strains in game design that Nintendo things have kind of. If they haven't outright invented them, they've popularized them or, given this huge sort of boom to, for other companies to follow them.
And that one might actually have a smaller blast radius than you would think, because a lot of the ideas in Pokemon are replaceable, or the ideas we would lose are not ideas we would be upset about. Like, are we really going to be upset if Mega Man Battle Network doesn't split and have 2 color versions for a long time, or fucking Yokai Watch with its 3 color versions? Get the fuck out of here with this shit. But I think, speaking about like, okay, how does Nintendo parlay business acumen into global dominance? I do think the establishment of a political conceit, a political concern is probably the better way of putting it, has to be part of this. And I don't see, like, without the sort of cultural imperialism that is Pokemon. I mean, it is one of the things Nintendo chose to represent themselves in the Olympics. I just don't see the political party van with Nintendo's logo on it driving through the streets of Kawaramachi chanting about whatever fucking political bullshit they're going to go out there. Last time when I was in Japan, it was somebody talking about restoration of the emperor. So, like, Japanese politics are weirder than you think they are. So the idea that Nintendo could have a political party, that part of this isn't the joke. That's the real part. The idea that they have a van going through the streets calling for whatever bullshit they want to establish as their sort of like chief political identifying motivator, like that part also not the weird part. The weird part is that it's
giving me
Pokemon.
This image in my mind, when people talk about sort of political forces perhaps overstepping their bounds by quote unquote packing the courts, and it is just a bunch of those people in the Pikachu mascot costumes.
There you go.
Just sitting
the
behind
ones
the
where they
bench.
show up and dance, but now they're on the court.
It's just like, look, I'm not saying Nintendo's completely bought out the justice system, but 1 in 3 judges is now a Pikachu mascot.
I mean, Supreme Court of Japan has a retirement age of 70, so like you could get them pretty fast. Like presumably they're going to end up, you're going to be able. I think there's like 12 or 15 on the court, so you can get there pretty quick. I'm trying to think of what there's a party. I'm trying what the name of the party that wants to reestablish the Imperial House is called. It's fucking insane. What
is it? Is it the Rise of Skywalker party?
No one ever truly dies, Greg.
Guess not.
God, I did in that movie when that line was actually said in the movie. I came back later though because no one ever truly dies. Yeah, I mean, Pokemon's a good shout because it doesn't necessarily kill the company. It does kill Game Freak. They die. Absolutely, they die. It might actually get rid of some things in the industry, particularly in the early 2000s, that were, I would call them onerous. And I hold up Mega Man Star Force / Mega Man Battle Network as a great example of like learning the wrong lesson. And the lesson wasn't that, hey, you should make 2 versions of the game and you'll get double the money. The lesson was, no, you can't do that. Pokemon can. You are not Pokemon. But that's a pretty good one. Cause if Nintendo manages to achieve this kind of hegemony, I don't know, you're gonna have to go after a major pillar. And so DK to eliminate everything DK and everything Mario is a pretty massive pillar that probably destroys everything. That's your, cannot possibly allow this to continue move. Pokemon and maybe Mario Kart might deplete their war chest, definitely. But Pokemon has a cultural component that you might be able to, by depleting it, they lose some of the cultural leverage they have. Because that's got to be part of it. They've got to be able to exert some degree of political appeal, at least early on, before they become dictators. So the loss of Pikachu as the party mascot is probably a major blow to their ambitions. I don't think Nintendo needs to. I don't think the LDP needs to worry about Nintendo running against them without Pikachu as their mascot. I think they're fine. Is there another one you could? I mean, Zelda's not going to do anything realistically. Like Zelda's going to affect how games developed over time.
That's the part of the question that's like, okay, what part of game the game design would hurt you? What loss to game design would hurt you? Your enjoyment of the medium the most, right? That's where that's relevant, I think, because Zelda, was a significant game on NES and Famicom, again with Famicom Disk System, right? Kind of helped those games that took advantage of the Disk System having the save feature and all that kind of stuff. Like it did help, keep the Famicom kind of platform ticking along in Japan. But Super Mario Brothers also did just give it that big shot in the arm before that as well. So that's I think Nintendo were thinking that they would go. Yamauchi was a believer in the whole 3-year fad type of thing or 3-year cycle from toys. So they were labouring under the assumption that they had to do something to refresh the Famicom hardware-wise, and that was the disk system. But maybe Super Mario Brothers by itself, and especially when that starts to have a global effect, could have done that. And the platform could have been kind of revitalised just that way. But from a game design point of view, I guess you've got to ask yourself, how influential is Zelda, I guess, because it was taking inspiration from things like, Tara Draga and all that, it wasn't completely just out of thin air, the ideas that it was pulling together. But I think it's, obviously we see now with stuff like Breath of the Wild that it can sell, not on the Mario Kart kind of level, but I think closer to that than perhaps I would have guessed. When you get into 30 some odd million with Breath of the Wild on Switch. But it's. I feel like it's something that's more influential on the medium than it is commercially powerful. That would be my just general feel over the years, certainly, because it's gone through some times where, some of its major titles didn't necessarily sell that, especially like Wind Waker because of the console it was on, and the second console that it was on, it just didn't get the chance to be in that many hands.
This part of, all right, well, what stops them? Like, that's actually a really easy question. I think what's more fun to me is like, all right, how do they make the jump? And is the jump their choice, or it's certainly not AI. They're not fucking leaned in on that stuff. That's going to be more somebody else who goes all in there. But
maybe that's it. Maybe Nintendo becomes a rallying point for anti-AI, and it seems like a good idea, doesn't it? Right? It's just like, yeah, we need to be able to set boundaries. We need to be able to not craft the tools of our own destruction and all that good stuff. But then we give all our power to this company. You think you can trust them with it? You think they're not? Surely they'll surrender their power when the emergency is passed, and then you find out.
I just don't know how Nintendo would become authoritarian. It's like, are we all assigned a friend code again? What's going on here?
You got to buy an amiibo to vote.
Well, I mean, so when the French, would this be the first French Republic? The terror period. They were so interested in eradicating the power of the estates that they changed the days of the week so you wouldn't know what day was Sunday. We had a 10-day day of the week. Nintendo is going to do, because they release their games on Thursdays now, is going to change it so every day is a Thursday. You will always have a new release. You must buy new release. It's time to buy them. That also means that
there will be like a great
week.
Burning of calendars, and you can only consult the Nintendo Today app.
It's right.
Every day is Nintendo Today. Every year is the year of Luigi.
That's their big brother, is the Nintendo Today.
You open it up and it just says today is today. All right, cool. Good to know. Thanks for that. When does Metroid Prime 4 come out? Today. Oh, cool. Good to know. Thank you. You said that yesterday. Yes, it came out today. All music is now played through the Nintendo Music app. I regret to inform you. All of it.
I guess
it's all the music.
Personally, I was trying to think of ways that maybe, to bring Gunpei Yoko into this, but he's not really been all that involved in, game development. But he was a producer on Donkey Kong. He was a producer on the Mario Brothers, the first one, the non-Super Mario Brothers.
Yeah.
I don't know if eliminating DK or Mario gets rid of him though, but certainly getting rid of him in that era would have crippled Nintendo.
Well, and just think about the Game Boy, right? I mean, how much does it take? And in the end, very similar argument to Pokemon. If they don't have the Game Boy to get them and its successors, the precedent, the kind of market that they carve out with that to kind of get them through the leaner times on the console side, you don't get to the unified hybrid Switch future where you can sell 70 million copies of Mario Kart 8 or whatever. So, I mean, how much he personally, can be, how indispensable was he to them having a portable arm to their business, at that time? I suppose you could make some arguments about that. Theoretically, other people could have, carried forward some of the same ideas, but definitely the Game Boy had a lot of, his kind of, philosophy evident in it, as it had existed up to that point with the, other products, at Nintendo. And so, it's certainly fair to wonder whether it would have been nearly as successful as it was.
What if instead of killing the Game Boy, you killed Tetris? Because that is really what made the Game Boy go when it came out.
Yeah. Yeah.
if you blow up Tetris, or you take away Nintendo's exclusive access to Tetris, let's dial it down. Let's not even destroy Tetris. Let's say they didn't get to Pagitnov first, which is basically what happens. It's literally a race to get to this man, to get that license. What if they didn't get there first? What if Atari got there first?
I don't know.
And fucks it up?
Probably wouldn't have been as big.
Well, like I said, they fuck it up because they're Atari, but Nintendo never has Tetris on their handhelds.
I don't know. I think that they'd be on solid ground with Alleyway and Radar Mission.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
Game Boy's
I
fucking
think
toast.
Game Boy would not have been as big. I don't think.
Game Boy was the fuel during the lean times of the console era.
Yeah, I mean, without Tetris, Game Boy would not have been nearly as successful. That's for sure. That was like the big exclusive killer app for it, right? Back when killer apps really meant something.
Back when killer apps could kill you. Huh. I think there's some good answers here. I'm just trying to find, like, what's the thread you could pull that, like, pull this one thread and nothing else changes except Nintendo never comes to power, and why is that game Disaster Day of Crisis?
Well, I mean, the most of the time people coming to power, it's making the best, so to speak, of a crisis. But I'm not sure that's quite what we're talking.
What if you have a machine that? What if the AI is inspired by watching playthroughs of Disaster Day of Crisis, and that's how we get here? Also, that sounds like something the writers at Monolith Soft would have written. Is that actually what happened that precipitated all this bullshit in Xenoblade is somebody played Disaster Day of Crisis too many times, and the AI was watching.
Klaus, that was his problem.
Yeah, he just played it so many times, and the AI was watching, and like, this Barris thing sounds like a good idea.
He yearned to create a new world because the current one just didn't have enough clustering of quote-unquote natural disasters.
Enough fire tornadoes.
No.
And terrorists with an earthquake machine, and also a mech. It's like, did you need both? Did you need both? Was one not sufficient for task? What if what if Klaus just played Disaster Day of Crisis and decided this world no longer needed to exist? Well, so we're gonna wipe out Pac-Man. It's not relevant to anything. We're just gonna do it. Just gonna fuck that yellow bastard right up. You puck face loser, gone.
Yeah, I mean, for me, with in terms of the types of games that it might diminish or limit their availability, popularity, how they, are designed, I'd probably, I'd have to go with Kirby, unfortunately. It does imperil Smash Brothers on some level. But
definitely does.
As much as I love them, it's just like, I really love Metroid games, and not just the ones that are, literal Metroid games, because they've had some dry spells in that regard. But, when you think of the Castlevania games, there's a whole debate to be had about, well, if you take Metroid out, does it nuke the genre? Not necessarily. There were a lot of developers in the NES era kind of come into that more exploratory side-scrolling action kind of game. That may or may not have RPG elements, which may or may not be like explicitly numerical or, kind of more power-up driven. At the same time, right? And I'm sure they drew inspiration from each other and, kind of it went back and forth a little bit, but, Metroid was not the only thing, that was working that particular kind of area of design at the time, and I think Zelda 2 actually inspired quite a lot of games that were somewhat in that vein. As well as, and had some overlap with it. So, maybe it's safer to take Metroid out than I think it is, but I wouldn't risk it. I'd say, sorry, I like you a lot more these days than I did years ago, Kirby, because I've actually played a lot of the games now, and even though they're easy, they are very, very good, enjoyable, but, it's gotta be you.
Anybody else?
I agree.
I'm going to fuck up Yoshi's cookie. It's not going to accomplish anything.
Is that testing? Is that testing the whole thing of like whether if you go back in time and like tread on a
what happens
in prehistory, does it change everything? Because
on
the
Yoshi
face,
cookies up.
doesn't really seem like that's that consequential.
Yeah,
No,
you come
but
back to your own time, it's just like, wow, absolutely nothing has changed.
I just wanted
except the your family's got forked tongues or whatever it is in that Simpsons
damn it.
episode with the toaster.
I just wanted it to know that, like, no, I'm the boss now. Fuck off, Yoshi Cookie. Piece of shit game. All right.
Isn't Yoshi worse than Yoshi's Cookie?
Yes, it is.
Yes.
They're both bad, but yes.
So, yeah.
I own Yoshi on the Game Boy. Absolutely worse. Yes.
Oh yeah, they're both bad. Like it's not a competition. They're both crap, but like it's just a degree of what level of crap are we talking about? Just garbage all the way down. All right, so why don't we just say the Yoshi Puzzles Cinematic Universe? There, we did it.
That could take Tetris Attack out.
Yeah, that's a risk I'm willing to take.
But that has existed in other versions.
I'm willing to take that risk. All right. Emails, send them to rfn@nintendoworldreport.com. That is rfn@nintendoworldreport.com. Soul Calibur 2 Retroactive next week. Get your comments in. You can still play it now. It's on NSO expansion pack. I'm running out of air. Bye. All right. So on that, Greg, it is time for some music.
Yeah, so before we had a little flurry of expansion pack NSO announcements this week. Before that, we had the update to the basic tier, where we got a few games, NES games like this particular one, Ninja Gaiden 2, that I'm going to draw something from the soundtrack. Now, if you played the first one, you should know exactly what you're in for with the soundtrack in terms of your real drive in that kind of, again, I guess at this time, you get sort of what I felt were relatively kind of signature sounds from different publishers on NES, but even if they were different composers, there were just certain things in common, like with Konami games, and with Tecmo, it's always that kind of, it's the percussion. Like, even if it's Tecmo Bowl or Ninja Gaiden, like there's this sort of common thread. So you very much got that at work here. But the one I've gone for is the opening cutscene, which of course was one of Ninja Gaiden's big, like, sort of relative innovations, right? Is that it actually had like these cinema kind of scenes, going for a very cinematic feel. And so, the music wasn't just like, the kind of up tempo, looping action stuff, but also, for some of these kinds of cinematic moments as well. And so see if you can guess that I originally intended for this to be for last week's episode, before we had a late request, which would have been before the Game Awards. The name of the song in question is, in fact, Approaching Evil.
All right, well, on that, it's time to go. Bye, everybody.
Later.
Bye.
Bye-bye.